We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for our Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse senior editor Phil Brasher, discussing the week that was, agriculturally speaking, in Washington, D.C. And for those of you that watched this program last week, you'll remember that we talked about how House and Senate Farm Bill negotiators really had kind of a this week kind of deadline to finalize their Farm Bill talks in order to get CBO scores and the necessary processes going if they were planning on meeting a September 30th deadline for Farm Bill talks. Phil, here we sit now, a week after last week's recording. How's that September 30th deadline looking?
They're still talking.
Yeah.
They're a long way from a deal yet. A number of issues they still haven't, including in the commodity title, the price loss coverage program. Some changes to that still up in the air. Yeah, they had another meeting for about an hour and a half on Wednesday night. I'm told that there was rather frank, candid discussions came down. The House and the Senate are at odds, or at least I'd say House Agriculture Committee Chairman Mike Conaway and the Senate negotiators are at odds over how to proceed from here. The Senate side wants to set limits on how much can be spent in each title and all 12 titles of the bill, so that and then to make any policy changes within those fixed limits. Chairman Conaway on the House side says no. We need to work out the policy first, and then because if you set those limits, then we can't make the changes I want to make. So there we are. They're still working on that. They're going to work through the weekend. The House is not here next week, but Chairman Conaway says he would be in town for another and it looks like they may have another face-to-face meeting next week.
And as we've reported on this program a number of times, and as some lawmakers have said, September 30th is the legislative deadline. Is it realistically the hard Farm Bill deadline?
No, it's not. Chairman Pat Roberts, Senate Ag Committee, made that point. They really have until December to get this done by the end when this Congress ends, because if they don't, then they're going to have to do some kind of extension. They're still say they're working towards September 30th, but it's just not going to happen most likely at this point. Then they go into October. I think the bigger question is, we were just talking about this before we started, is the election, and how badly do they need to get a farm bill passed and into law before the election, and still not quite clear on that.
Mm-hmm. So that's something that could be helpful for a number of rural states, Democrats looking to get reelected in the Senate. It could also, if they were to wait on this, it could also be helpful if Democrats were to take the House, if they're looking to implement policy changes of their own. There's a lot of interesting political dynamics at play here as we look at both the combination of the Farm Bill and election season.
Right, and a big question is who gets blamed if there's not a Farm Bill before the election. We're speaking on Thursday. President Trump got on Twitter today and singled out the ranking Democrat on the Senate Ag Committee, Debbie Stabenow, and blamed her for stalling the bill over work requirements for food stamp recipients. That can be nothing but a bit of a help to Mike Conaway over on the House side, but setting up Stabenow for the blame if there's not a farm bill. So we'll see whether that works or not is another question.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be sure to keep you up to date on how things are looking in regards to the Farm Bill fight. But some other things going on here on Capitol Hill. Obviously, it is September. It is the end of the fiscal year at the end of the month. Phil, where do things stand, and what should our readers be watching for here in the rest of the month, specifically as we're talking about the appropriations process?
Right. Well, the House and Senate are trying to wrap up work on a package of bills, 4 bills. It includes the bill that funds the USDA and FDA. It includes another bill that funds the Interior Department and EPA. They're trying to get that done before the end of the month, wrap it up with a stopgap spending bill that would fund those agencies that are not, keep them funded into December. There's still, most of the funding levels have been worked out, at least on the agriculture, USDA and FDA side of the ledger. There are some policy issues that are still outstanding that haven't been settled. One of them is horse slaughter. The Senate would continue the ban on horse slaughter. The House Republican negotiators, anyway, are resisting that, so that's one of the issues. There's an issue with lab-grown meat and whether Congress is going to get involved and whether USDA or FDA regulates that, which is an ongoing question. And then there's some question about whether Congress will use this bill to get involved in the relocation of the couple of agencies at USDA, the Economic Research Service and the National Institute for Food and Agriculture. There's been quite a bit of opposition to that developing, but whether Congress will get involved in that, we'll see in the next few days.
We'll see in the next few days, and we'll see over the next couple of weeks how the potential threat of a government shutdown might loom over Capitol Hill here before the end of September. But before we let you go, we do want to let you in on some information. Agri-Pulse staff had the opportunity to sit down for an exclusive interview with Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue earlier today. We talked. It was a pretty wide-ranging interview, covered a lot of ground. One of the subjects that we did talk about was the trade assistance plan from the Department of Agriculture. USDA's chief economist rolling out some additional details, additional rationale on how the department came to the payment levels that they did here earlier today. And we asked Ag Secretary Perdue if there were plans for the potential, if these trade fights were to continue to linger, if the Department of Agriculture is planning on offering a similar program for the 2019 growing season. And here's what he had to say.
These markets equilibrate over a period of time. We obviously will see less soybeans planted here in the United States based on forward pricing. That's what the futures market give us, market indications. That's what farmers have done forever, is look at what the forecasts are. Should I plant corn, beans, cotton, peanuts, and those kind of things? So they manage that relatively well. I don't think it's in anyone's best interest to send a signal that other than the farm safety net that we have out there and crop insurance, that this is anything more than a 2018 kind of issue. And the reason we felt compelled, the President talked about that, was these were things that were not contemplated when the seeds were put in the ground in the spring. So that's, I think, a fair assessment, and I don't know that it would be in anyone's best interest to do that. If we move further down with working capital, with people going out of business, I think Congress will be motivated to look at some sort of package possibly going forward. But that's not on the forecast of us or the administration at this point in time, dealing with what we're dealing with the mitigation issue over 2018 crop.
So, Phil, we heard him there say that the administration not too excited about a potential new plan and potentially looking to the legislative branch in Capitol Hill for a potential solution there. What do you take as the temperature for Congress to potentially address a trade assistance plan for farmers in 2019?
Well, you're certainly not going to get any discussion of that now, and I can't imagine there's going to be a whole lot of interest in that anytime soon. You could have a changeover in Congress, at least in the House, possibly in the Senate. Would the Democrats want to take this up and spend money to protect the White House politically going into another presidential election? That's a little dicey. I think the other message that the Secretary had for us is that farmers are going to have to deal with this themselves. They know what the situation is, they know what the futures prices are, and they need to plant accordingly. How that goes down out in the country, we'll have to see.
Yeah. So stay tuned to the various Agri-Pulse communications platforms here over the next couple of days for some more information on some things that were said during that interview. As we mentioned, a pretty wide-ranging discussion, covered a lot of different ground, and so I think you'll be interested to hear some of the comments that the Secretary made to us here in this interview. But I think that's going to do it for our video this week. So for Phil Brasher, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.